Hi, Sabrina.
Hi everyone. Hi Jen.
Before we go into the Q&A session, can you introduce yourself a little bit to the viewers?
Of course, yes. Hi everyone again. My name is Sabrina Lee. I'm really excited to be here on Jen's channel. I actually graduated with a dual major at Rutgers Business School with marketing and business administration. And then I had a third degree out of the Rutgers School of Arts and Sciences, which was a political science degree. I've got a lot of great internships and experience that included within marketing itself, operations, sales, a lot of like account management, leadership positions where I was able to figure out like what was the most important to me, what I valued more, and kind of where I wanted my career to, start off as.
I collected some questions from people on Instagram as well as some questions that I was curious about.
Mhm.
So we can get started with the first question. So, how did you decide you wanted to triple major in marketing, business administration, and political science? And which one did you enjoy the most?
That's a really interesting question because I actually didn't know I could even like triple major. So that was one of the amazing things with Rutgers. They were really able to let the student customize their academic career. So I chose business admin because I thought it would correlate well with what I wanted to do in terms of marketing. And then I went to my advisor, and then he also told me that if I wanted to keep my poli sci, I could just triple major, and that way it keeps it. And then I would just have to be a little bit more rigorous in terms of like my semesters and the credits I was taking. And I ended up making it work. And like it was very hard because I was taking like 19, 21 credits a semester, which was a lot, but I definitely don't regret it. But I would say like all of them are very different. So it's hard to say which one I enjoyed the most. I think I've just enjoyed the experience at RBS more. So I would say like it's just the experience. It's not necessarily like which major. It's really what you make and the people that kind of come along with you throughout the journey.
Right. And so you had these three majors, but on top of that, you were also involved in different organizations. So you definitely had a lot on your plate and you're able to do everything, which was really good.
It was definitely hard. I don't recommend it if you're not like into the organizations, because all the organizations I chose, I wanted to not just be like a member. I wanted to actually be part of it. So you really have to be a little bit more picky and choosy in terms of your interests, and that way you can, flesh out a little bit more, and that will move into like your career later on. Because I think a lot of the things that I gained in my organizations is the soft skills.
Live, Laugh, Study Co. As what's your favorite major and the most useful to your current role?
Well, thank you so much for the question. Live, Laugh, Study Co. I would say the most useful is definitely business skills that I've acquired, because a lot of as you move in through the business school, what they do is like, you're not just taking classes, you're actually collaborating with your peers. So, I mean, it's kind of a pain because like some people aren't as, productive or as skilled in certain areas, but because you're able to collaborate with all types of people, it definitely gets you prepared for the business world and what you want to go into. Because at the end of the day, we all want to get a job out of college, so I
Right.
was able to kind of collaborate, and then from that I was able to take those soft skills that I learned from the classes and from the teamwork that I did, and then kind of utilize it in my interning experience. So that allowed me to form a lot of understanding and in terms of what I wanted to choose as a career later on.
It sounds like you had a really good college experience
Yes.
and that kind of set you up for, your career. So
Mhm.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about what you do today. So how did you become a technology project manager?
Yes, very good question, because every company is a little bit different. I would say at Optum, what happens is they kind of give you a lot of leeway in terms of what you're interested in. So when I first started out applying to full times, I was really focused on applying to programs. So what a rotational program is, for those of you that don't know, is when you get accepted as a full time employee in a company, you get to experience multiple different roles. It's sometimes either a year or 2 years. So at Optum, it was a 1 year rotational program where I got to choose two different positions within the company itself. From there, I was kind of able to gauge what my interest was, what I really liked, what I didn't like. And uh, Optum is a technology company at the end of the day. It's a healthcare company, but a technology company. So I knew I'm not a good developer. I don't want to code. So I
Mhm.
definitely steered away from those roles as part of my rotational program. But from there, I was able to kind of understand, what other roles part of like a technology industry will allow me to thrive, you know? So I know a lot of people, they might think, oh my God, technology, I could never do that. But I also thought that going in. And because of the rotational program allowed me to kind of understand that technology is very broad, you know, it's kind of like any industry, like for example, accounting, it's very broad, you know, so you can kind of figure things out as you go and figure things out in terms of like, this is something I'm really good at, and this is what I want to hone into. That's how I kind of chose to be in a project consulting role. So my first role, my first full-time chosen role after my rotational program was not a project manager, because I didn't really know what a project manager was. I was still trying to understand like what technology offers and like the different roles under the technology arm that was not coding or developer. But because I was able to kind of network and figure things out within the company through the rotational program, I was able to understand, you know, this is definitely a potential career path that I can move into. And so after 5 years at the company, I was able to become a technology project manager.
You kind of answered the next question in terms how you got into the tech role, but
Mhm.
how did you get into the rotation program?
Yes, great question too. So a lot of it is about, I would say, networking is a huge thing, because I didn't know a lot about rotational programs in general until I went to like the career fairs, because a lot of the times they give out pamphlets in terms of what the company's offering. They might be offering like full time, they might be offering rotational, they might be offering internships. So it's a variety. So I think like attending those career fairs, attending those like large session where you can really go in front of the employer or in front of the company to kind of talk to them, you can kind of understand like what your options are, you know? So
Right.
because I went to those, I was able to understand, oh, maybe I do want to kind of learn more about what a rotational program is, because it allows me to kind of learn a little bit more than just going straight into a full-time position, you know? So
Mhm.
that's how I kind of became a little bit more aware that this was an opportunity that I could pursue.
Yeah, that's really good that you were able to get more information when you went to the career fair. I'm sure right now it's probably virtual. What does your day-to-day look like?
Our clients are not like people or like companies per se. It
Okay.
would be like the state itself, you know? So like,
Mhm.
for example, the state of New Jersey, if they wanted a new healthcare platform for all their Medicaid information or all their Medicaid solution, they would put out a proposal. Then multiple different consulting companies would try and bid and get this contract under them. So that's what my team and my organization tries to do.
Yeah.
Every day is very different because every proposal is different. Every contract that comes in is different. I think a lot of it is about understanding and becoming more absorbent to the environment around you. Like, for example, my first year, I worked under my manager who is a project manager, but he focused more on like the day to day project managing versus the role that I had was working with him is not necessarily day to day, but I would kind of float around with my coworkers in my team to see kind of like what is the most priority of today.
Right. It sounds like you have a lot of interactions with other people, both inside and outside your company.
Mhm. Which is, I think, one of the biggest things in terms of being a project manager, which I become to love a lot, is if you're a people person and you just really like, if that's like one of your biggest strengths is like communicating and communicating well, because if you are honed in on really good communication skills, that is a big, big plus for you. And as if you want to become a project manager later on, because communication is basically the key to being a really, really good project manager.
What are some other skills and experiences that someone may need to become a project manager?
As I progress through this career role and my project skills, a lot of it is like sometimes things will go really well and planned out as you have planned it, but then there's like not a lot of times but rare times where it will go really bad, and it's really how you handle yourself in that moment when it goes really bad that's really key, because you're representing your team and you're representing your company. Usually when you work as a project manager, it might be internal sometimes, but even then you don't want to come off as like you can't handle conflict or handle stress very well. So I think that's number one thing that I've realized in this role is that, again, every day is very different, and then when the days are the same and you're fine, there can be something huge that kind of erupts and you have to scramble to figure things out, so I think that's number one. Number two, I would say just being open. It's establishing that within your organization, within your team, but also making sure that you also keep that mentality as you work with other groups, because you're going to need those connections as you move through your PM role career.
Right. I also wanted to talk about certification.
Mhm.
And so there are different types of certifications for project management. Can you explain which one you receive or plan on receiving?
Mhm. So, I actually, as I joined the company, I was actually thinking about going to school to get my MBA. But as I continued on in my career, I realized that sometimes an MBA is not necessarily worth the price tag, and there are like these certain types of certifications that you can get that's way cheaper and honestly way more beneficial and will last longer in the long run for you. Like for example, for a project manager, they usually get a PM certification. So the PMP, Agile, Scrum, everything that Jen listed here is really beneficial for you. But I would say it's not necessary.
Okay.
I currently do not have any of these, but it's not that I won't get it in the future. But I think if you want to become like a director in the future, or you want to hone in on a specific area of project management, then you should maybe consider them. But if you want to kind of do kind of like more broader scope of work, which is kind of what I'm doing right now, it's not necessary to have to spend, a couple thousand to get these certifications.
Right.
So I would kind of see kind of like where you are right now, where you want to go. And I've seen a lot of companies that hire and take on employees that just have a lot of great experience, not necessarily focused on certifications,
Right.
unless you want to go specifically into something, into like a specific project management role that requires that, then I would say it would be beneficial for you to get it.
Right. So I guess what you're trying to say, it's really case by case
Yes.
basis where if you want to specialize in something, you can get a certification. But from what I'm hearing, it's not 100% mandatory in terms of what you do.
Correct. Yes, for sure.
Oh, that's good to hear. The next question is from Derek. He asks, what is the most challenging part about working in project management?
Thank you, Derek, for the question. I think the most challenging would probably have to be just managing people.
Mhm.
As you go into the corporate world, you're going to realize that your manager sometimes needs managing, which is unfortunate. But a lot of the times, that's really true for a lot of cases that you go into in terms of your first career path or your first job. So for me, I'm definitely more outgoing person. So I would say if I'm not doing something properly, I want to hear that criticism so that I can improve, or something that I can work towards, or improve on, something like that. So a lot of the times I think that's the hardest, because you don't want to step on people's toes, but you also want to get what you need from them. So managing upwards, or managing your coworker who's like 30 years older than you is sometimes very intimidating. But I think that's one of the more challenging things that I continue to learn and hopefully improve on, for future years. A lot of the times it's really about, your tone and your, again, communication skills. And, if
Right.
you establish this is the expectation with your manager, and they don't follow through on their end, then like, of course, then you have to readjust with them. But if you establish that expectation, then usually a lot of the times kind people, which most people are, I would say, right? Give them the benefit of the doubt, will adjust according to what you need. So I've
Right.
seen that works really well in corporate settings.
Yeah, that's really great. And then for the next question, so you deal with a lot of people, you manage people. So what are some ways that you learn to motivate people from the inception to a project to the completion?
That's a great question, because I really love motivating people. I'm honestly, most of the times I'm the first one to say, "Oh my God, that was a great job. You did amazing." I really value that, because I think that's important to keep morale up, especially when we're working on a big project, or if you're on a bigger team. Sometimes some people are different; they have different personalities, and some people need a little bit more, oomph and push. So, my previous team, I would honestly work more towards in terms of like, just like sideways emailing them, be like, wow, that was really great. I learned a lot from you, and something like that small. But I think as you get more seasoned into your career and you become a manager yourself, or you have people reporting into you, I think it's important to kind of open up a safe space for them and kind of give them the opportunity to speak up, So
Right.
I don't know for you, Jen, in the accounting world, but a lot of the times when we start our job, we're new. We don't necessarily know how to handle things or what to say that is right. So it's a learning curve. So I think a lot of the times, like, the manager role of it is understanding how to kind of help them along to get there. So I think for me, understanding the ways of how people operate, or this specific person, who they are, and that helps by like talking to people, right? Like, again, communication. We always go back to communication, but a lot of the times it's about, maybe reaching out to them a little bit more than maybe they've been reaching out to you. A really quick, like, uplifting quote of the week or something like that, or start something like a positivity of conversation in the overall meeting, a team meeting that you have, so that they can maybe participate, So I
Right.
think understanding that as you get more seasoned, obviously when you first start out, like for me, 3 years ago, I would not say this right now, because you don't know what to say. You don't know what to do, what's right and what's wrong, And as you get more seasoned into your career and more seasoned into your job and with the people, your coworkers and your colleagues, you're going to be able to understand the different types of people and how to motivate them. I think just like overall recognition, no matter how your company does it, if you participate in it, you are giving back to the overall morale of the company and your coworkers and yourself, because it feels good to just be like, hey, great job, Jen, or like, great job, Sabrina. We love to receive it, and like, it's good to kind of give that back to
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we need more of that in the accounting world. I feel like everything we do is always wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it gets tough sometimes, because especially if you've been working on something for so long and you're just, well, like, I just wanted to get it done at this point. But if you receive a little bit of a pat on the back, or just even like your manager being like, hey, I just want to say, you're doing a great job. That's it. That's literally all it takes for you to feel more refueled. So
Right. Yeah, I definitely think that those are really good tips, especially if you happen to manage people.
Mhm.
And I think what you're saying is like words of affirmation, just thanking people goes a long way than you
Definitely.
would expect. Yeah,
Thanking people is huge, because you don't realize until you go into your career how little people do that.
right.
Just a thank you is like, people love it. So
The next question is related to technology.
mhm.
And the question is, how do you stay updated on the latest tech and changes to the organization's technology?
A current project I'm working on, it's a lot about figuring out Medicaid and Medicare for a specific state. So their technology is very different than our technology that we currently offer at Optum. So I might not understand their technology, but I understand our technology. So in order to kind of mesh that together and blend it together, it helps to kind of understand from our perspective first, right? Because if they need help and they need something better, it's how we're going to go in there and make it better for them. So it's not necessarily maybe staying updated on the latest technology, it's kind of staying updated on like what your company offers. So for
Mm.
example, if your company is not a technology company and it offers like different account management stuff, you want to know everything about in terms of like what your team or what your organization offers, so that you can bring the value to whatever you're trying to do for your client or for the project that you're on.
Right. So
Mhm.
it's just kind of adapting and really taking the time to learn what the
Yes.
technology that your organization provides.
Yes, for sure. And like every day is, I feel like every year, there might be some official notice that comes out, for at least for my organization, that they'll announce something and I'll be like, I didn't even know that we had that capability. So
Yeah.
the constant, I feel like, learning, changing environment with the types of technology that we deal with.
And another question from Derek is, what is your favorite part about working in project management?
I would say my favorite part is the people. I've
Mhm.
been really lucky, I would say, that I never thought, as a millennial, I feel like thinking is that like we always think that we're going to move to the next best thing. So I never thought I would be staying at Optum for, this is 2021 would be my 6th year. I never thought I would be that type of person. So, but I think like understanding, developing your own circle of people that you trust and that you care about. Like we spend so much time, besides with our friends and family, with our coworkers. So
Right.
you really want to develop that community within that group of people that you have to see every day, and like at that point, if you have to see them, you might as well be friends with them. So I would say that's my favorite part, and also just understanding that everybody has something going on in their life, and like being flexible and understanding of that, you become more compassionate with the people around you, you become more understanding of the people around you, and then they kind of become a part of your circle, adjacent circle. Obviously you're not going to tell them everything in your life like with your friends or your family, but it becomes an adjacent circle of this community of people that you really care about and trust, and that you have to see every day and work with.
Right. And you had mentioned work-life balance, which goes into the next question of how do you juggle, like, I know in terms of like dating, personal life, family time, like how do you juggle all of it?
Cool. Okay. Well, first things first, it helps that I work from home.
Yeah.
My work, or my company is very big on work-life balance. I know I feel like a lot of companies say that, but it's rare to actually see it executed. So I was able to luckily be enough in an organization where they're very flexible about my work from home schedule. I was actually initially not work from home. I was in the office full time for 2.5 years. And then when I joined my current team right now, they're all remote. I have coworkers in California, I have coworkers in Hawaii, I have coworkers in Florida, so they're very understanding that, like, work is not everything. You have a life outside of
Mhm.
work. So I literally go from my bed in the morning at 8:30 and go down, make a cup of coffee, and then go 5 steps to my office.
That's so good that you're able to find a company that really does want to say, like, there are so many companies that say they have work-life balance, but then when you get there, there's really none. So
Yep.
the fact that you were able to find a job that you love and that you also are able to balance both work and your personal life is really good to hear.
Yes, I'm again very lucky. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if anybody's interested watching this afterwards and they have questions, reach out to Jen. She can share my email. I've in Optum, I've actually been very active in terms of recruiting as well. So I would love to be able to give back to, like, people coming out of school and they want to understand this career a little bit more. It is definitely very varied. So you kind of have to like stick it in for a little bit longer to like get to maybe where you want to be. But I would say it's so worth it.
Definitely, and thank you for that. I'll have Sabrina's email linked in the description box if you guys are interested in hearing more about project management as well as the company that you work for as well.
We're always hiring good people. So
So the next question is, what is your long-term goal in the field of project management?
So since I'm a technology project manager, I can kind of go into either more project consulting, just consulting work, where on different types of projects or with the different types of companies, or I can kind of stick out project management and kind of do more like on the director route of it. So I
Okay.
think my long-term goal would be a little bit more towards the director route. But
Mhm.
obviously it takes like people needs like at least 20-30 years of experience under their belt to do that, because again, technology, healthcare, it's such a huge industry, so there's a lot to learn. So I think that's my biggest long-term goal. But I think I would say short-term goal would be to definitely look into more of the certifications, because with the certifications, I know I said it isn't mandatory as you start out, but as you get more seasoned into your career, it definitely looks really good on your resume, and it makes you a little bit more desirable, especially when you have that certification. Um,
Right.
and kind of doing more research in terms of understanding what certifications are better for you in terms of what your career goals are, is kind of where I'm at right now. Because I think after I would say 5 years, 6 years is kind of like where you kind of want to start seeing like where's the next trajectory, like, growth path for you. So I obviously want to go more towards the director path, but again, the director path is attainable, I would say, after I have at least 20 years of experience under my belt.
Wow, so that's good that you know kind of the direction of where you want to go in your career because sometimes it can be unclear, but I'm glad that you're able to kind of see where you want to be in like a few years down the
Yes,
line.
exactly. Yeah. So again, it's very varied. Like what if next year I get on a new project and I want to work on something else? So it's
Mhm.
it's very much about kind of like what you make of it, and like a lot of it is about kind of speaking up too. Like I know for me at least, my current team that I'm on, they work with a lot of different other external teams, not not within our organization. So
Right.
if I was interested in something like that and you are within your organization, I would say have develop an opportunity for yourself where you can kind of talk to your manager or manage up and just be like, hey, I saw this project that I'm very interested in. I want to reach out to this person. Like give them a projected like steps that you want to take, you know, with what you want to do, because then they can't really say no, because if you're doing your job and you want to pursue something else on the side, I think that would be like a huge like growth opportunity for a lot of like people starting out in their careers.
The next question is, what are some of your passions outside of work?
I found this kickboxing studio near my house, and that's definitely been a huge game changer for me in terms of like, you know, how I hold myself and like everything that I've kind of learned from. It's a lot of work working out, I would say. Like it's a huge commitment. And I think, you know, that kind of attributes back to like what I was saying about soft skills. Like you learn a lot of the soft skills in your life and with the people around you and what you're doing in your life that can definitely brought back into like what you do in your work or, you know, in your day to day and all of that. So I would say that's been a huge game changer for me and been a huge passion of mine, just like staying more active and kickboxing whenever I can.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And I know, before when we could have traveled more, you also did a lot of out of country traveling and
Yes, it's definitely allowed me to understand how fortunate we are and definitely allowed me to appreciate what I have a lot more, just because when you travel, you really open your eyes to different things and different people and different cultures. And I mean, at least for me, like I wasn't born here, I was born in Taiwan, but when I came here, I was definitely given a lot of opportunities that like, you know, other countries might not have. So
right,
now that I'm a little bit more better off in terms of finances, I can kind of go and see other things for myself. And again, I think that speaks to like work life balance too, like having all these extracurriculars outside of work, or, you know, if you're just passionate about like hiking or, you know, anything, drawing, singing, whatever, kind of like having that outside of work, it definitely colors up your life a lot more.
right. And then the very last question is, could you give any last advice to those who want to start their career or transition into becoming a project manager?
So I think like as you start your career, just like be open minded. Like sometimes a lot of the roles that are out there, it reads very boring or reads like, oh my God, I can never do that. That's not my passion. But if you give it a chance, like sometimes it gives you a lot more like long run like output than you might think there is.
Right. So that's a really good point to stay open-minded
Mhm.
because there are just some times where you feel like you can't see yourself in a role, but once you actually do it, you might end up liking it.
Exactly. Yeah. And the flexibility, I feel like when you choose something that maybe is not like what you thought you would do is, I think, speaks volumes in terms of like what you actually go into later on. Because like for me, I didn't know I wanted to become a project manager. I didn't even know what a project manager was when I applied to my jobs, you know. So and
Mm,
at my company, I didn't even know that there was a project manager roles or part of this organization. So as I continued on in my role and the being flexible and open-minded, I was able to kind of carve out my own career path within the path that I had chosen initially. I would still love to do marketing sometime in the future, but I think like right now, career wise, I see so much growth potential in where I am, where for me, it wouldn't make sense for me to kind of start from scratch. It really depends on like what you want. And like sometimes we put too much of it as like, oh my God, I need to be passionate. I need to love every single day. Like if you're working, it's hard to love every single day sometimes, you know? So,
that's really true.
mhm.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Sabrina, for coming on and sharing your experience
Thank you
about
for
what it's
having me.
like to be a project manager. So thank you so much for joining today.
I'm so glad. I hope some of my advice or what I said was helpful to everybody out there. A lot of the times it's really about your networks, and like the reason why I was able to, you know, get to kind of where I am is, you know, just kind of like being more open and being more flexible and all of that. And I think that takes you throughout besides your career, like throughout your entire life, you know? So and success is kind of like what you make it. And it's not sometimes something that you see written on a piece of paper or like see from
Mhm.
others. A lot of you guys that are starting out in your career, it's overwhelming. I definitely know that. But just kind of, you know, you kind of just have to play it by ear sometimes. And sometimes if you are overwhelmed, it's nice to kind of take a step back and see the overall bigger picture, because it might seem like this is maybe not the best thing, but then if you give it a chance, it might work out for the best, which is what happened to me. So
If you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And thank you again, Sabrina, and thank you guys for watching.
bye.
Bye.